Hello chickens! Welcome to what you guys have been waiting for, hounding me for, getting very excited for, the 2023 Reading Wrapped. Now, a few things that I want to say before we get started. I have not added transitions to this. I've tried to record this a couple times and I've been either interrupted or whatever. But I managed to finish. I did a full completion recording today. And then I finished and I'm like, oh my god, thank god. I turned my phone around and my phone is black. I ran out of charge halfway through the video. However, it did look like the video had actually taken me almost an hour to do. So I don't know how long this will end up being. I will try to speed it up, but maybe put this in 2x speed, because if we learned anything from last year's Reading Wrapped, that's gonna be the best way to watch this, guys. So hope you enjoy. All right, worked very hard on this. Here are our categories. I've got some fun facts for you. My best and my worst. What did we read this year that was good? Last year. What did we read last year that was bad? My recommendations, what I read last year that I really think you guys need to get onto as well. And anyway, and then I added a new little category, which is most anticipated. So some stuff coming up that I'm really, really excited for. And some other little bits and bobs as well that I want to share with you guys. All right, fun facts. So this year I read 121 books. That's 31 less than last year. I read 46,148 pages. Again, significantly less than last year. I think we hitting around 60,000 from memory. And our average star rating was 3.94, which is much higher compared to last year's 3.89, which is really, really weird, because I feel like 2022 had a better reading year than 2023. Like, you guys will definitely get the vibe from this video that maybe I read some good books this year, like, don't get me wrong, but it was probably not the best reading year I've ever had. I digress. I've made a little graph for you guys. I really put my general math skills to use, and I made this graph for you all. So just to really show you my reading. Yeah, so we got romance, fantasy, classics, and other. Now, as you can see, romance has dominated. Romance has absolutely dominated. Fantasy, it looks like I don't love her, but I do. I really need to really get on that train. Classics. I only read 2, and I only read them for literature. Adult's House by Henrik Ibsen, and Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. And other, just honestly, general fiction. Can I be real? Other is general fiction that I just don't feel comfortable classing as a romance. Let's talk about alien penises. We've got to talk about alien penises. I only read 15 alien erotica last year. When I say this year, you guys know what I mean. And I will talk about this later, but I just didn't find good I didn't find good ones. Ruby Dixon came out with a couple this year and they were really good, but obviously they were just next book in the series. Like, they weren't full series that I was binging. I tried to get into a couple, but honestly I only got through like the first or second book. Like, I really just didn't find many good ones. So that's why we're only at 15, which is 15 more than most people, but for me, yeah. But while we're talking about alien penises, let's bring up male penises. Let's bring up human penises as well while we're here. Can I be honest? I read 75 smut books. What do you want me to do? Shoot me. Sorry, 75 plus the 15. Shoot me. Like, I don't care. Okay? You can't really get romance books without smut these days. You really can't. And if you do, then it's like Mormon stuff, and that's just a can of worms you really don't want to open. Yeah, let's keep moving. Thank you, Storygraph. Storygraph was kind enough to collate for me some really fun statistics and information from my reading that I have just screenshotted and placed here for you. Here's a graph of my reading. Take a guess when I graduated. Take a guess when I became free. Shocking. My longest read this year was Binding 13 with, what does that say? 938 pages. And then my shortest read was Adult House by Henrik Esben, 122 pages. I will digress. I don't believe that my edition of Binding 13 was this long. I think mine was only about 850 pages, but you know what? That's life. Took me about on average 7 days to read a book, because I was in grade 12. I just didn't have time to do anything because I was not studying. I was too busy not studying to read. And the average page length was about 384 pages. I really hope you guys can see the screen. My quickest read was 2 Weeks Notice, which took me 1 day to read. I will say 2 Weeks Notice will come up later, and she's only 200 pages, so very easy read. But my longest read was Some Kind of Perfect, which took me 63 days. And honestly, I'm sure you guys remember me talking about this series. It's a long series. It's 10 books. The Addicted Callaways is the series. It's 10 books. It's massive. And you read the first 2 books, Lily and Lo, love them, great. And then you read books 3 and 4, which are Rose and then Daisy, respectively. And you love them. And you love them so, so much. And then you have to go back and keep reading Lily and Lo. You basically get to read the last 2 books, but from Lily and Lo's perspective. And all of a sudden, the series isn't so interesting. But it's fun because it took me almost 365 days exactly from the day that I started Addicted to the day that I finished Some Kind of Perfect. And I think that that's really beautiful that it took me a year to get through that. His little graph. So I really feel like when I just had like a good read, I just gave it 4 stars. But as you can see, we had a lot of variation here. I really rated stuff, everything. Had a really good reading month in May, but a not so good reading month in August, unfortunately. And then a massive reading month in December. Look at that. I read 6,000 pages just about in December. That's crazy. That's crazy. I reread a lot of books this year. I discovered a lot of new authors this year. I did a lot of things. I can't remember what I screenshotted here. I don't know why I was silly enough to screenshot paragraphs to put on this thing. I'm never going to read that. But you guys can. You've got eyes. Come on. Have a look. There we go. Here's a little... I know you guys either love or hate seeing pictures of my shelf, but I thought I'd show this little evolution. So as you can see, I spent some money this year. I bought a lot of new books. Yeah, it's getting quite bulky down here. This is like the shame corner. So like, actually it's not quite the shame corner. I have the Hunger Games on the shame corner only because the covers are ugly. I'm sorry. I've got the old covers that are ugly. But yeah, quite unstable. Architecturally, I'm still anxious. The chances of me dying in my sleep from being smothered by like a collapsing bookshelf is unfortunately quite high. Here's a little shelf update. So I read 45 physical books last year, and was that 76 digital books? Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure how accurate that is. Which brings me to having read 73.1%. And I'm not going to dally on this slide for too long because that is actually a decrease from last year and I don't want to talk about it. So yeah. But here is something that I do want to talk about, my best and my worst. So what I read that was good, what was bad, what did I rate 5 stars, what didn't I? Let's get into it, guys. So I actually didn't finish these. Them. I don't want to waste too much time on this slide because I already know I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time on the next slide talking to you all. I don't remember what happened in these books. I don't know why I DNF'd them. Like, I don't know what the sitch was. This one was I think it was a college sports romance. And this one was Mafia. I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but they were bad. I didn't enjoy them. We are all shocked. I'm shocked. You're shocked. Everyone is surprised that I finished these. And the reason that I finished these, $22.99. $22.99. Honestly, $22.99 for both of them. Individually. $46.98. Ridiculous. Ridiculous that I spent that amount of money on these absolute trash piles. Let's get into it. So I'm mainly talking about her. Ignore her, I'm talking about her. My number one most embarrassing moment reading wise from this year was the fact that I accidentally purchased a hockey 4-way, not a Mafia, okay? Not a billionaire like ice hockey. I'm talking the center, I'm talking the goalie, and I'm talking the sports manager who did play professionally until his knee got busted. I'm talking like ice hockey 4-way. Like, there's 3 of them in her at once. Like, there's a lot of things about this book. No, I was gonna grab it and show you guys, but it's really high. I'm not doing that. You always know that you're about to read a badly written book when you open it, and there is a list of trigger warnings, and not like, hey, you know, this book deals with like delicate subjects, please read carefully. No, I'm talking about like, this book includes fucking, and then it lists everything, like dot point list, and then it goes through and lists everything that happens sexually, and then the very next page is a list of all the characters. Like, I paid $22.99 for a novel, not for a dictionary. You know what I mean? Like, not for a roster. That's not what I paid my money for. But obviously, my money did not go to a good place, so why am I even complaining? You know, that was me who spent... that was me who was silly and spent my money there. This way. It's the way that I actually wouldn't have realized it was a 4-way until about 300 pages in, because, you know, I would have... It's not until the third person gets involved that you're like, ooh, this is a bit why choose. It's exactly what it was, actually. It was a why choose. That's what it's classed as, a why choose romance. Like, why would you choose when you can have all of them? I need to speak my truth. What got me about this book was not the octopus tentacle dildo mentioned within the first 20 pages. It was not that the first sex scene happened within the first 100 pages, which is just lazy writing. It is not the double vaginal penetration. It is not the lifelong best friends turned gay crisis. It was not the 4-way wedding in Las Vegas with her rock star dad and her wearing this really ugly gold or silver wedding dress. Okay, guys, that's not what got me. It was the bad, lazy fucking writing. You can make an ice hockey 4-way work. Like, you can do it. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it. How on earth did this manuscript cross the pages of a publishing office? Someone pick it, like, were they on holiday? Were they spaced out? Like, what the fuck were they on? Like, no one in their right mind would read this and go, hang on, this needs to be on the shelves in every major retailer. It must. This, like, the writing was so bad. So bad that I literally had to stop every 2 freaking seconds because I was cringing, because it was just, I don't understand why people are wasting, like, it's commercial. She's written this book, oh sorry guys, it's turned off again. She's written this book to make money, to put online for people to read because it has sex in it, and to make money. And then you get to book 2, because I'd already purchased it, so I had to read it. And you get to book 2 and you're deceived. First 200 pages, mate, it's actually not too bad of a novel. More ass play than I usually like to deal myself with, but you know what? Not too bad. Ass plug in a sauna, I can deal with, alright? Double vaginal penetration, if I'm being honest, I can deal with. Like, it really wasn't that intense. It was just badly done. Honestly, and then this book that actually had something to it. Yes, she was 32 and he was 22. Yes, it was a really odd relationship. But there was something to this book. This book had potential. And then all of a sudden, it crashes. And all of a sudden, you're reading another badly written shit work. Like that's it. Guys, you remember, like, the lines you draw for the story plots. We're here on the plot point. And hang on, I need to think of what it is. It was in violation. I can't think of it. What is it? I'm sorry, I've completely spaced, but whatever it is, all I can think of is restriction access. And it's on the tip of my tongue. But when you block someone in real life, and like they can get arrested if they violate it, like when you block them in real life, what is that called? Restriction. Don't look at that. I just ate. Blocking people IRL. No contact. Hang on. Legally. How to block people in real life. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. When you block them in real life, when you get a restraining order. So he was served with papers for a restraining order. And he's reading remember, this is at the peak of the plot. And he's reading it and he's like, like, I can't understand it. And she goes, like, oh my God, let me look at it. And he goes, no, it's a restraining order. Like, you can't look at it. Oh my God. No, you can't look at it. And literally, and she goes, Ryan, baby, are you dyslexic? I was so gobsmacked. You've known each other for 2 weeks. Why? Honestly, it doesn't even sound so bad when I say it, but when I tell you, the writing was just so absolutely dog shit. Like, I felt like I was munching on genuine poop. Like, it was so bad. It was a waste of my money. Okay, the fact that my Dimmicks boy sold me this is probably the reason why he has not, like, scoured the world trying to find me for real. Guys, these books were fucking shit. Anyway, these books also weren't great. 2.5 stars, 2.5, 2.75, 2.75. I don't remember. They were just bad, guys. Can I be honest? I really feel like you don't need me to say more than that. I feel like my simple words mean enough to you all. They were bad. They were bad. It's a bit of a shame that I technically didn't have a 5-star read this year. It is a bit of a shame. Obviously this was a reread. You guys know I've read this series like 100 times. This was a reread. It was my only 5-star read this year because I didn't rate anything else 5 stars. I know that Sarah J Maas is a bit of a touchy subject for most people, and I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to get too political, but at the end of the day, it's my opinion. I'm yet to find an author that does it as good as her, and I'm sorry if that hurts people. I'm yet to find an author that does it as well. She's a fantastic writer. I'm still chasing the feeling that I felt when I first read her books, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. So that was my only 5-star read from this year. But these guys were really, really close. All of these books I rated 4.75 stars. Let me quickly take you through it. So this one here, Second Chance, Enemies to Lovers, Single Dad, Primary School Teacher, Next Door Neighbors, He Shattered His Leg in the NFL. It was really good. Daisy Jones and the Six. Fuck, you guys know I really enjoyed this one. I literally can't even believe, like, I feel like I read it like years ago. The thing that I loved most about Daisy Jones and the Six was the narrative style. The fact that it was told in documentary style. You guys don't know this, I'm a freaking sucker for documentary style. I am a sucker for documentary style. The characters were done really well. The plot was done really well, but the narrative style is what pushed it over the edge for me. Like, it was fantastic. I'm gonna come back to Fourth Wing. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Honestly, I shocked myself that I didn't rate this 5 stars. I really thought about it. I really pondered it. But I just couldn't quite, sorry, I hope you can see the screen. I couldn't quite commit. I don't know what it was that made me leave off the 0.25 stars, but regardless, that's how it happened. I feel like if I reread it, I would probably amend it. Like, I feel like if I reread it, I could end up giving it 5 stars, but for now, it is 4.75. Fourth Wing. Where to start? Another controversial author. But I'm not going to get into that. Okay, I'm going to start by saying this. Fourth Wing would have been 5 stars. It would have been 5 stars had I not predicted the ending halfway through. If I had figured out the ending in the last 100 pages, it would have been fine. I just knew from too early on. But there was something magical about this book. Keep that in mind. I will be talking more about this series because I've got a bit to say, but there was something really, really fantastic about this book, and no spoilers because I've been recommending it to a lot of people who are yet to read it. So I won't be spoiling anything, but I will be talking about it. It was really good. Really immersive, actually, is I think one of my favorite things about it is that I felt like I was there. I was walking the parapet, I was flying dragons, like I was doing all of these things. I was getting railed by my super hot boyfriend Xaden with an X. You guys know, huge fan of X as a letter. I really felt like I was that a spoiler? No, because everyone knows they get together. No, soz if I did actually spoil it then. Soz queens. Actually, I feel like it's too, like, that couple is too mainstream for it to be a spoiler. You don't even know if they get together or not. They're just soz guys. Anyway, like, the way that it was written, it was great. I enjoyed it. Specifically though, the author has actually said that she wrote this book to bring people into the fantasy genre, which I think was amazing and I think has been done so successfully. The really big thing is, and I'm going to come back and talk about this series later, I've literally made a point so that I can stop and talk about it. The thing about reading and the book world at the moment is that we have seen a resurgence of popularity in reading books, and this came as a result of BookTok. Like, we know this, like, that idea that books are turning into fast fashion, which in a way it definitely is. But something really, really interesting is that people have decided that they're willing to read, like, they're, you know, all of a sudden, like, this hobby that was for losers and nerds is now a hobby for everyone. Because, like, I'll argue that point, like, 10 years ago, honestly, like 5 or 6 years ago, to tell people that you were a reader is a completely different reaction than you will get now. You've got this massive group of people who have started reading because it's gone, like, viral, and who will only read romance. Yes, you know, you're always going to have people who stick to their genres, but I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of people who will not read fantasy. They will only read romance, and it's so shocking to me because I love fantasy. Like, I'm such a fantasy girl at heart. But, you know, like, romanticy's always been a thing, but to even suggest that people would want to read a fantasy novel, like, they've had to, like, rebrand it into romanticy. Like, I think that's crazy. And that's what I think that Fourth Wing has done really, really successfully, is to start bringing over people from that diehard romance side and be like, hey, well, there are other things to read, that you can get that same feeling from a romance from this genre as well. Because fantasy is what, in my opinion, is what carries the book industry. You can't have a world in which people read books and no one reads fantasy. I don't believe that that is sustainable or marketable. So I think it was really, really fantastic that this book is bringing people into that genre for the first time. And yeah, I'm gonna come back to it because I've got more points to make, but not on this slide. Okay, my 2023 reading recommendations. I'm gonna try and start speeding this up again. Sorry, Queens. If you remember from last year, my first series that I recommended was the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. It was a really, really great Mafia series. I read this by her last year. Fantastic. She's an artist trying to break onto the art scene in New York. He's an artist and he's also a serial killer. The romance was done fantastically between these characters while still maintaining the integrity of the idea that he is a serial killer. It was done really, really well. Can't praise it enough. I also am like 80% sure that this book here has a 30-page sex scene. I'm just gonna leave it at that. This was my number one sports series from this year. Number one. I loved it. The thing with sports series is that often you read these books within a team setting. So you've got your goalie, your goalie gets a book, a defender gets a book, a center gets a book. You know what I mean? And you don't have that much variation because the way, I need to put it down, the way that the sports series are constructed is they're constructed like this. So you have book one, and it's really closely linked with book two. So you end up reading half of book two in book one, or you already know what's going to happen. And then book two brings in these new characters that links again with book one, and then you have another book four. All of these characters are intertwined. See how book one is still connected? You're still reading about the characters from book one in book four, and sometimes it gets repetitive and boring if not done right. And so that was something that I really enjoyed about reading the Drop Road series, is that basically the books are tied together by a road, not as metaphorical as this, but a road set in a university. On this road are all of the frat houses, but these frat houses are sport houses. So you have the rugby team, the soccer team, the hockey team, the football team, the basketball team. They all have their own houses, and that's what I really, really loved. Really, really loved about this series. Also, I'm fake. I only read 5 out of 6, but anyway, you gotta trust me. I may need to bring the Irish accent out for this one, guys. I may need to bring out my Irish accent because the way that this series literally changed my reading year. And the only reason that this wasn't my number one sports series of the year was because I only read the first 2 books, obviously. There's so many more books. I've only read the first 2, so I couldn't rank it number 1 because I haven't read them all. I've spoken a lot about this book already. I don't want to carry on. The best thing about this book is how real it is. How often do you read books with the main character in Shannon's position, and you read it and you're like, this is terrible, and this happens in real life, but it doesn't quite happen like this. Like, this just doesn't seem real. You don't feel that way with Shannon. You read all of these books about these young men who are gonna play play professional sport, like for their country, for their state, whatever, and it just kind of doesn't seem real. Johnny's journey to playing professional rugby union for Ireland is so real. The way that these characters were twined together with their friends, like with everything, it was just so perfectly done. The other thing I want to talk about is there is a plot point in book 2, and it is without a doubt the best plot point I read this entire year. And if you've read the books, if you know the books, it's the scene where, you honestly probably already know what I'm talking about, but it's the scene where, no spoilers, where Johnny sneaks in and Ollie, I think is the youngest one, Ollie is in the hallway. If you know, you know. I can't even speak about it. It was so fantastically well done. Like, this honestly was my number 2 most embarrassing reading moment from this year. The fact that I haven't read this sooner. Like, fuck, like, I'm sorry. Best billionaire romance I've read since Wattpad in circa 2016. It was fantastic. It was quick. It was easy. It was well done. It was interesting. The plot was well done. I had a great time with this one, guys. The only good Alien series I read this year. Each book was different. They were twined together. So remember how I was talking about this? We had this happening before. With this book, we kind of had like this going on. And that's the best way I can describe this metaphor. Each book was different, but still so well put together. More books are coming out. Like, this series had everything for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. Again, I'm a fraud. I haven't read all of the books, but that's only because book 1 looked boring, and then when I finished this one, books 5 and 6 hadn't been released yet, and they've been released now, and I just haven't had time to get back to it. Anyway, you guys just gotta trust me. This series was really good. Ooh, nope. This series was really, really good. It's not often that people nail small town, like small town without any sort of incestuous vibes, but this story had that. This series literally was small town, no incestuous vibes. Just good writing, good plot, good stories, good characters. Loved it. Can I be honest? Let's just rip the band-aid off. So this is where I spent my money this year. I spent a lot of money at QBD. I spent a lot of money at QBD, and then I spent a fairly split and even amount at KMW, which I just combined because they're so similar, like, and then also Dymocks, because as you guys know, I was a bit of a traveller last year. I went to Melbourne and Brisbane, so obviously, you know, I had to go buy myself some books at Dymocks. Readings was a bookstore in Melbourne. I spent $22 at. Dymocks, $190. Let's look my Kindle app. $190 and 92 cents. Kmart McW, $162.80. And look, you guys are smart enough. You can comprehend numbers. You can see what QBD's are. Leaving my total. A lot of, yeah, it's more than I spent in 2022. A lot of people thought that I'd spent like $2,000. $2,000 is a lot of money. I would not spend that much. Anyway. Most anticipated. Stay tuned. I know a lot of you guys only read this, like watch this to see how much money I spent, because otherwise I don't tell people unless you watch the video, but stick around because you're going to want to remember these dates, because I'm going to be so insufferable on the private story. Oh, I just poked my eye. Oh. The way that I'm going to change, the way that who I am is going to fundamentally be changed for the better. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. I've never read a golf sports romance before, but if anyone's gonna do it for me, it's gonna be Tessa Bailey. I'm keen for this one. I've started seeing some snippets because obviously the release is quite soon. Looks fantastic to me, guys. Looks absolutely fantastic. I'm really, really keen for it. Ali Hazelwood writes the trashiest fucking books, but they're all so good. I've enjoyed every single one of her books. Guys, you already know, back on my Wattpad days, all I read was werewolf books. Even wrote a couple too. All I read was werewolf books. This is werewolf and vampire. Vampire spelt with a Y, so that is so trustworthy to me. I'm really excited for this. Like, I'm actually really, really excited for this one. Love a good Emily Henry. This one looks great. This looks great. I think I'm gonna love this a lot. And can I be honest? Can I have a moment for the cover? Because look at that orange, look at the purple. Look, I just want to nibble on it, you know what I mean? So basically, these are the books I want to try to read this year because they've just been on my shelf too long, or they're just like a high priority read for me. This has been on my shelf since the end of year 10. I received it, because if you don't know, basically I did my year 10 work experience at Mary Who Bookshop, and at the end of the week, they were like, bye, and I was like, bye, and then like a couple weeks later they were like, hey, we actually ordered this in as a gift for you, because I went and talked to them about it, because I'd been looking for the series forever. This is when it first blew up. I've been looking for it everywhere, and I could not get it sourced to Australia, which I still find is really, really odd that you can't get it outside of America. But anyway, yeah, it's been sitting there a while. I think the reason that I haven't read it is because I think I'll really enjoy it, and then I'll want the physical copies of book 2 and 3. But I actually have this book in hardcover, which is going to start getting very, very pricey. I think that's why I haven't read it. This has not been on my shelf nearly as long as other things. I just really want to read this year. I really want to read it. If you don't know, I'm doing a double degree, including a Bachelor of Arts, and I'm actually majoring in ancient history, my cheeky little Bachelor of Arts. So, you know, this is like good background reading. I need to read it for uni, basically. So this has been on my shelf since 2020. I hope you guys could hear that. 2020. And the reason that I need to read this year is because this is a YA fantasy. I do genuinely believe if I don't read it soon, then I will read it and not enjoy it, because it's like it'll be too young for me, if that makes sense. So that's why, because I don't want to waste my money. I've got the whole trilogy, so I really got to get on this one. And it is the exact same story with this one. I've had it since 2020. It was recommended to me by a friend. I've got absolutely no idea why I haven't read it yet, but yeah, high priority. Rapid Fire Book Awards. Ugliest cover. Craziest title. This is crazy. It's a crazy title. Most likely to flash me. We're holding on for dear life here. I'm scared. Biggest DILF. I didn't want to make a slide about it because I was too lazy, but I would also really recommend this series. He was a massive DILF. It's a massive age gap, but he's such a fat DILF. Best sports romance, just like singular romance. This one was really good. I'm gonna read more from her. Best fantasy, Fourth Wing. Okay. Best to discuss is what I called this. To make a long story short. No. I'm gonna give you the medium-sized rant for this. So, as we know, as I was talking about before, romance books taking over the industry. No one wants to read fantasy. I don't believe you can have a stable book economy on just romance books. You can't have that. I think that Fourth Wing, there was this Iron Flame came out. Fourth Wing was released in April or May. April, I think. This was released in November. It takes on average 2 years to have a book published, and when you're in the series you're at a 1 year turnaround. But with the industry being how it is right now, we're usually looking at 1.5 to 2 years. It is a 1 year turnaround, honestly, minimum. This was like less than 10 months. That is shocking, and I've got a couple reasons that I think that this is the case. Iron Flame had book 2 syndrome. It had book 2 syndrome, like when you're reading a series and book 2 just kind of is there to join books 1 and 3, but falls flat. It isn't interesting, which honestly gives me hope for the rest of the series. But the writing was very different from book 1, and the writing was very rushed, and something very interesting happened before the publication of Fourth Wing. Hang on, let me look. Where are you? Piactus. So that is the publishing agency. I'm not sure if that's the Australian. That just might be the like Australian supplier rather than the publisher. Anyway, the agency, the publishing house that Rebecca Yarros is with, this book was announced because it's not uncommon to have books be promoted as trilogies or duologies, featuring the new duology, because these books, when authors get deals, authors sell the books to them. So they sell the books to the agency as a trilogy, even if they haven't been written yet. So this series, the Empyrean series, was sold to the publishing agency as a trilogy. Before the publication of Fourth Wing, it was changed to a 5-book series. This is so strange. That is not normal. What can I, honest to God, guys, what I think, and I'm still gonna enjoy the series, I'm still gonna read this series and enjoy every second of it. I think that the book world, like the traditional book world, has been looking for a way to start moving us out of that romance. You know what I mean? Out of that romance, like single lens romance is the only way to read. They wanted to start moving us out by that. And what better way to do it than to have a very easily understandable fantasy book, including, you know, stuff like dragons, like familiar stuff. Like this doesn't hurt your brain to understand. They have seen this come across their desk and gone, this is the book we've been waiting for. They've upped the promotion, they've upped the marketing, they extended the contract, and they are using this book, this series, to start transitioning back into a more balanced reading, to start selling fantasy again. Hit me up if you want to hear more rants on this, because honestly I think I'm going to write an essay about it, because I've got so much to say, but that's just a little snippet. And that brings us to the end. Thank you for watching my 2023 reading wrapped. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, got some good recommendations. Yeah, really got to see a little glimpse of my reading. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next year. Stay tuned on the private story though. You already know content's coming. Okay.